You're watching CTV News, Calgary.
We've seen the disproportionate effect of COVID-19 on women in the workforce. It's women who have often lost work in the service, retail, and hospitality sectors. As we look ahead to the future, careers in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math could lead to brighter futures for young female students. Joining me is Jennifer Flanagan. She is the CEO and the founder of Actua, Canada's largest science and technology outreach organization. Jennifer, thanks very much for speaking with us.
My pleasure. Happy International Women's Day.
Indeed. So how tough has the pandemic been generally on Canadian women?
Well, without a doubt, as you mentioned in the introduction, women have been bearing the brunt of the economic and social impacts of the pandemic. We know that that is happening across a whole bunch of different factors. So tragically, we're seeing an increase in violence against women. That's up by nearly 30% in some regions of the country. We know that pre-pandemic women were had nearly three times the responsibility at home with children over men, and that has only increased because of school closures, with daycares being closed, with healthcare systems being stretched. We also know, as you mentioned, that women have made up a vast number of the job losses. And of those women who haven't lost their jobs, many of them have decided to either reduce their hours or take a leave, or some of them have left the workforce altogether to deal with those family responsibilities. And in STEM, that is only exacerbated because we know that fewer women go into science, technology, engineering, and math fields, and many more women leave those fields. So across the board, the pandemic has exacerbated all of these gender inequalities and really threatens to undermine the very hard-fought accomplishments and strides that we've made over the past couple of years, past couple of decades, excuse me.
Right. Now, looking on the positive side, though, we have Dr. Theresa Tam, Canada's top doctor. The top doctor in Alberta is Dr. Dina Hinshaw. Top doctor in BC, Dr. Bonnie Henry. You must be encouraged by the fact that so many scientists and doctors leading the fight against COVID-19 are women.
Let me tell you, I mean, this is one of the best pandemic stories, if that's okay to say, is the visibility of women in both science, but also in leadership positions. So you mentioned Dr. Tam, of course, Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland, who's led us on the economic recovery side, but also 7 out of the 13 top doctors in our provinces and territories are women. And that visibility leading us day in and day out along this fight has been incredibly important for girls and boys to actually see those women as role models. We also know that there's a lot of women who are not necessarily making headlines, but who make up the vast proportion of sectors like healthcare and social services, educational services, the food industry, all of which have been so critical in the fight for the pandemic. But like I said, that visibility of women in STEM has certainly been something that I think will help us to counteract those gender inequalities that have really been worsened through the pandemic.
Now, looking ahead to the future after the pandemic, how many jobs do you expect to be purely in the STEM sector?
So there's absolute clarity that science and technology are going to be absolutely critical to the recovery post-pandemic. So skills in those areas are going to be very important. And any kind of investments that we make in preparing girls for the future of work are going to have a benefit to everyone. I think it's really important, especially on a day like today, that we recognize that what's good for gender equality is good for all of us economically and socially. So Actua is offering programs across the country that build those skills and that confidence in girls and young women. And it's really about the combination of giving them those technology and science skills, but also then putting them into an environment where they can apply those skills and build that kind of human side of things that we all know is critically important, the collaboration, the creativity, and the problem solving skills. So Actua is doubling down on that. Of course, we've been doing it for 25 years, but we know coming out of this pandemic that more than ever before, those technology skills are going to be absolutely critical.
Yeah, well, let's hope there are brighter days ahead indeed. Thanks very much for speaking with us.
My pleasure.
And for more information, you can visit actua.ca or find them on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.